Hey folks, Stacy here at the Battle Axe channel. I am so excited to bring an interview with you guys tonight with Cowboy Roy Rogers. He is a fellow Freedom Restoration Foundation board member. He does a lot of work for the foundation, more so than any of us. He's like putting us to shame. He does so much work. He is a professional truck driver. And what we're going to be talking about tonight is the truck driving strikes, the protests, along with cause and effect that of our supply chain. So, Roy, just go ahead and introduce yourself, and please give a shout out for your YouTube channel and all that stuff.
Yes, I'm expected to be a professional. I can't practice like a doctor or a lawyer. And I'm sorry to say there are a lot of unprofessional drivers on the road. Everyone deals with what we call steering wheel holders who don't even have any business having a Class C license for a car. And then there's the vast majority of just average truck drivers. I attempt to be what we call a trucker. Try to be considerate of everyone and courteous and careful, but also especially with other drivers, and communicate over the CB and so forth, like most don't even know how to do anymore. And I normally run between Central Texas and the Rio Grande Valley to bring loads up out of the valley each day. So I experience as little as the city as I can and interstate highways. But also I'm down in the area where I'm seeing what U.S. Border Protection agents are dealing with, and a decent amount of transportation stuff that goes on, as well as my boss who runs different areas, and staying in touch with a few other truckers, and including my retired trucker friends who still stay in touch with others.
Greg, what type of stuff do you haul? Are you at a flatbed with, what type of?
I used to haul lumber on flatbed occasionally. I've hauled dry van loads of recap tires between San Antonio and Fort Worth. I've also pulled belly dump, hauling gravel and hot mix. But roughly 10 years ago, I quit the rock hauling. I'm still with the same company, but I pulled tanker trailers. Used to have baffled ones. Now they're all smooth bore. So it's kind of like throwing a Coca-Cola can sideways through the air when you expect it to stop. And hauling what they call raw grease. It's actually used cooking oil from a location that it's all brought to by the straight trucks with big tanks on them and pumps, picking it up from the restaurants around Laredo, the whole Rio Grande Valley, and as far up as Alice. And then I occasionally pull the loads out of San Antonio that are gathered throughout their area, and take them over to Bastrop, where they also gather together, but that's where all the material goes to.
I see. So you're out on the road daily, and you're listening to the attitudes, and you're knowing how them truckers are feeling right now, and I bet you they're pretty stressed, aren't they?
Area I run, I hear mostly Spanish, but I tune into conversations now and then. I hear and chat with drivers who are talking about stuff that started on January 20th, and the person in the driver's seat on the oval track over there in DC, driving the clown car. And I also hear, there are different concerns about government orders and so forth that have come out through there and through corporations and stuff, as well as more so through media sources of staying in touch with people and people sending me info through Freedom Restoration Foundation, and as well as other groups where people have come with me to our groups. I get info from people all across the US and up in Canada. I'm in touch with folks in Mexico, but normally don't hear from them. and even over in Europe and Australia and so forth.
Sure, sure. So the strike, you know, I have been loosely following what has been going on. My assumption is both Canada and the US, but primarily Canada right now, the strike is it's about mandatory snake bites, right?
Yes, exactly. Their convoy started, they were already organizing, but convoy started on January 23rd. A few days after Trudeau in Canada implemented their orders, there was news reports that because of the people speaking out that they were not going to implement those orders, none of the truckers or anybody else really believed it. And sure enough, they kept moving forwards with their preparations. They keep being removed or suspended on their media platforms that they're using to communicate.
The truckers are being
And
suspended?
yes,
Okay.
like groups on Facebook where everybody, them and everybody supporting them, which I'll describe in a moment. Then yes, Trudeau did implement the orders. They started the convoy on the 23rd, and then I believe on the 24th is when the DC order started for cross-border drivers on the Canadian border to expect to have their snake bites.
So to clarify, the mandates from both sides of the border, from Canada, it's to mandate US truckers coming in have the snake bite. And from the US, it's to mandate Canadians have the snake bite both ways. Or it is Canada mandating all their drivers have it regardless.
I haven't seen the very specifics of the deal. I do believe that it's possibly both countries and forcing it against drivers from both countries.
Okay, okay.
And if it is completely across the board for Canadian drivers, I'm not certain. I do know that they are not only standing up against that, but it's a general broad spectrum. They've had enough. They're standing up for the human rights of all Canadians and all people against all the unlawful orders and so forth, and all the oppression and everything that has occurred for over 2 years now.
Yeah, it's
And there's actually a large amount of people backing them up. The convoys, including your photo behind you, there's cars included in it. There's people shown up on the bridge tops with their flags and cheering them on, and all down the sides of the roadways and so forth, and all the videos that I've seen or had sent to me.
Now, I'm going to ask you this question. I think I pretty much know it, but for our listeners and our viewers out there, what would be the point to mandate truckers to have this? I mean, I'm assuming you folks are pretty much in your trucks and you're not engaging with groups of people, maybe one here and there, but I mean, is there anything, is there any reason why this would be?
Your assumption is pretty accurate for most of us, especially myself. Even where I pick up and deliver, I generally don't actually come into contact with anyone.
So
I run the card at the diesel pump and then, get my receipt out there and get back home. Some drivers that are over the road, they of course spend the time 34 hours shutdown period. Sometimes some of them will hang around in the truck stops and wash their laundry and all so forth, and be amongst other people. But generally the lounges are nothing but truck drivers anyway. Right. Not like other people go in amongst. And then a lot of companies, for example, the one I deliver to, Where I pick up at their location, they have no choice but to let me in the building because the trailers are in the building.
Ah,
The paperwork is in the office. But there's only 3 employees, so it's not a strict deal. Wherein I run into the yard through the gate and pull on the scale, they have signs up still requesting drivers to stay in their truck and providing a number for the office. The hours that I run, I had to be able to access the office when it's unavailable, get somebody from the plant to help me and so forth. But also I've been hauling for them for roughly 10 years. So it's a little different situation to the point that I even have a gate card now, finally, after all these years, to get in the gate and in the scale room of the office without having to lay on the air horn and make phone calls and walk around hunting people down just to
sure.
take care of their equipment. You know, kind of examples what some others may be going through there. But the point is, if businesses have certain requests or orders, the drivers may not be getting out of the truck anyway, and definitely not going into offices and so forth and dealing with people. My personal opinion is just like the rest of this stuff, it's a control tactic. I have no idea if they specifically do want to cause more drastic increase in inflation, if they do want to cause more instability and supply chain shortages and so forth. I'm sure there are those individuals that would like such things. The ones making the orders, who knows? Even if they were asked, I doubt they would say.
Well, and that leads to my next question. What effect has this already had on the supply chain? And if this continues, like, what effect will it have? I mean, I know that there's hundreds of thousands of truckers, and they are the lifeblood of both, North America. So, what
Well,
do you perceive that this is done or is going to do?
specifically Canadian cross-border, a vast majority of our lumber comes out of Canada. Even if it's harvested in Maine, the Pelletier Company runs through small gravel roads into Canada to the lumber mill. And then it's shipped back either on train or by trucks. If it comes all the way down here to Texas, it used to come to Bernie. They don't go there anymore. It's only shipped to Fort Worth. That's why we don't haul it, because we're near San Antonio. It doesn't pay to run all the way up there empty to pick up a load to bring back to San Antonio. It's
Sure.
too fuel costly. There's a lot of steel, I've heard, goes back north into Canada on their backhauls, and vice versa. Also, grain products are hauled across, and who knows what else. We have manufacturing, so they get goods from us. They have farm and other products that come here. I think maybe even some livestock is hauled either way. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I know a local cattle hauler that runs all across the states.
Yeah, I happen to know that's a fact, as being in agriculture. So we got the lumber that's being affected and going to be affected, which we've already had skyrocketing, triple digits, just inflation with the lumber. A 2x4 that used to cost $2.50 is upwards of $7 to $10 in some states now, which is ridiculous. And so the iron and metals industry, that's got to be huge, and also the agriculture. So we're hurting our farmers, and our farmers are already under a lot of stress the way it is. I happen to know there's a lot of grain that goes to and fro, and Canada is a pretty good producer of grain themselves, especially out in the western plains of Canada. But do you think that the people listening, like I always talk about preparing and having food emergencies and things like that, but do you think this is a legitimate reason to stock up on food and those necessities that maybe they think they wouldn't have normally in
Absolutely.
case it shuts
And
down.
as you were speaking, I was thinking, I don't personally know, but I'm willing to bet there's plenty of medical supplies and so forth that get transported back and forth, manufactured either there or here. Within our group and other groups and so forth, there actually are a number of Canadian friends of mine. I have contact with people across the entire country, only about a number of people as there are provinces I actually speak with regularly, but a number of them follow me on the Facebook and such. And so, one is not only a gardener but market gardener, and two of them are farmers. And like I think you may have been chat with on Greg's video the other night, Blair is a farmer, and he's not farming. They had a lease out to someone else and he's not able to work oil field anymore, so he's driving truck. And I didn't think to ask him if he was doing cross border. I think he's mainly hauling grain within their province, but I'm sure there's a lots of different stuff like that going on.
Well, and I happen to know there's a huge seed transportation that goes back and forth. And regardless, the seed supplies have already been stressed the last couple of years. It was starting to get a little better, but I do foresee that it's going to get a little worse again this year because of all this that is going on. But so Roy, what can we do? I mean, how can we help our truckers? Because I consider you my trucker. we're Americans, so we can't. In this country, we are so dependent on, like I said, it's the lifeblood of North America. And you know what? As self-sufficient as I am, there are still things that I order that I get delivered, from seeds to garden supplies and things of that nature. So what can we do from our end to help you guys out?
Firstly, as like you said, I'm your trucker. Well, in all actuality, every trucker in North America is everybody's trucker because we trade with Mexico. We get bananas from Guatemala that maybe they come on a ship or maybe they come all the way up from Central America. I personally don't know. But we've got to think about that. Every one of those drivers is helping provide something for everyone. The product that I haul, I'm hauling waste from agricultural products, but it's also a resource because it's used in biodiesel, jet fuel, cosmetics, and hand sanitizer.
Sure.
There are for the actual truckers in the convoy, there is a Gab group or channel for them now that I was sent the link, and I spread it out, posted it when I received it, and thankfully they're it's Convoy to Ottawa 2020, I believe is the name of their Facebook group, has over 600,000 members now.
Wow.
Including myself and some of my friends that invited me, and I didn't realize we're already in it also. There is a little bit smaller group with a few 100,000 people, and it is Freedom Convoy 2020 support. And through those, they're posting links of donation apps to assist in funding the drivers that obviously at their own expense are bobtailing across the country and out of work.
Shut down. They're not
because cross-border hauling. There's also like a video that was sent to me and a few people have posted on Facebook. I put it on my TikTok and my YouTube channel of a driver who was clearing out of his truck after being with a company for 9 years because they do cross-border work, and he's not going to take this new treatments.
Right.
And, you know, first thing we can do is share the information, spread it out everywhere. And then also talk to people we know, provide them information. Like you said, of course, get your necessities, inform everyone else to do the same. Of course, don't try to hoard it all at once so the neighbors got a little bit. So when they run out, they're not trying to crack in your door while you're off to work. But also reach out, you know, take part in those groups, even if all that does is show a higher list of numbers of support.
Right. Right.
So our foundation, because of some of the people in those two groups, today we hit 799 Facebook members in our FRF group. Got 128, I believe, in the MeWe.
And that's Freedom Restoration Foundation on Facebook and also on MeWe if you're on them social media platforms. I unfortunately had to back out of the Facebook one because I kept getting blocked. You know, they kept shutting me down. And for business purposes, if I get shut down again, they're just going to delete my accounts, and you know, I lose a lot of customer marketing possibilities. But folks, if you are on Facebook or MeWe, hop on there. Roy does a good job giving information out on those platforms. And then of course, Roy, what is the website? It's .org, freedomrestoration.org, correct?
freedomrestorationfoundation.org, all lowercase, crammed together in one word.
Right.
And Greg by himself is trying to keep it updated while we write action alerts to put on there. The latest one I did was an update for our electric grid defense for EMP protection and so forth. Because of all the people he's been interviewing, that provided more resources and more links that I could add in there, all in one alert for everybody to use that to educate themselves and send it to their legislators and local county offices and everything else, and their, you know, city and state representatives to educate them. Because, for example, with this convoy, well, if a grid goes down in one place and they can't get fuel, they're not going anywhere.
Well, and
we won't be doing work if it happens to us and all that.
And little side note, kind of off topic here, but as far as your semis, I mean, if they get zapped, if they get hit, electronics and stuff like that, they're going to shut down a lot of them, right? I mean, a lot of stuff is very computerized now, right?
Probably 1% of the tractor trailer trucks have the old manual injection pumps and manual shut-off valves to where an EMP might pop their headlights.
Okay.
Or make the wires get hot, but the truck would still run. As long as they get fuel, until the fuel runs out. But I would guess it's 1%, in part because of government regulations, all the EPA standards. I drive a 2000 379 Peterbilt that was built in '99. It does not have the EGR stuff, but oh boy, it is electronic. I carry a spare ECM, but it's not in a Faraday cage.
Right.
So, you know, in some things, if the engine's not running, they're not fully powered up, they can be less vulnerable, if I have heard. I don't know. But my first stop to pick up the swap trailers is almost 4 hours to get there and 4 hours to get back. Well, that 4 hour loaded drive, I have gear in my truck to try to be prepared to make that 2 week hike back home.
Yeah. And people
or,
don't have a
you
comprehension
know,
on how long it takes.
blankets and a tarp for shelter and rubber boots and extra shoes, some food stuffs and a butane torch and a darn machete and my fire extinguisher and other defense items.
Yeah,
I
yep,
mean,
yep.
I'm always prepared, but when our truckers across the USA were targeted by these so-called mostly peaceful protesters here the
Yeah,
other year, I was like, well, you know what? One thing is not good enough, maybe, especially if somebody's attacking from long range,
right.
or if what's on my belt ends up jamming or something. So I started carrying a long box up in the sleeper locked up. And
Good for you.
then I was like, man, I can't afford the ammunition for this. I can't. So I had to do some math and research and talking to people. And I found something old that has cheap freedom seeds available and got
Yeah,
that instead. And it's a little quicker to operate because, yeah, most of our truckers run through areas through cities and stuff that may have a bad spot in them. I often have to pull over on the side of the road or have been broke down on the side of 281 down there in the Rio Grande Valley where there's no services within 25 miles if I'm in the middle of it.
mm,
And I know for a fact there are people hiking through the brush that are not ranch workers. I've seen them with my own eyes.
yeah, yeah.
And there have been welders that lost not only their trucks overnight, but also their heads. And this was already years ago. A welder inspector my cousin knows because he's a crane mechanic happened to be the individual to go back for inspection the next morning and find the situation.
Ugh, yeah,
I've seen
it's a
high-speed
dangerous
chase
job.
start right in front of me where someone was an American citizen was transporting a carload of people that had come across that southern border and was pulled over, and then they tore off to flee from the cops, and they didn't go north. No, they went from the northbound shoulder directly across in front of a tractor trailer rig and a car to the crossover and then headed south
Hmm.
and was causing problems there. So I was yelling on the CB to warn everybody. Then I got on the KLW World News Network to speak out for all the Texans and truckers that might be running through that area, to be aware if they were down in the valley. And then a couple of days later, there wasn't a line of trucks behind me at the northbound checkpoint of U.S. Border Protection. So I took a moment to ask the agent, and he told me that they had actually come southbound through that northbound checkpoint,
Mm.
obviously endangering folks. Maybe they just went through the barricades on the main lanes where it's normally blocked off instead of through the traffic. I didn't think to ask that. And then when they tried to cross back to the southbound again, they rolled the car.
Mm.
And so they got caught. That's how I was able to find out Yesna was American citizen and the whole rest of the carload was illegal aliens.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah,
truck
I
drivers
know when you drive,
use,
you see some stuff. I drove school bus for 7 years in my early 20s. And now there's nothing more precious of a commodity than children. And the things that I seen people do that put these children in harm's way. I had one guy try running me off the road, passing me on the right hand shoulder and then flipping me off, and lights are on, blinking, stop, and then children are coming to cross here and somebody's coming up. I would stop the children, scream, turn the bus to the right to stop the car, because I was never a person that sat back and allowed these people. We were constantly calling in license plates, and driving is a dangerous business. And I argue it's just as dangerous as agriculture. Agriculture is a very dangerous business to be in as well. We're not dealing with, thieves, criminals that are running from the authorities like you drivers are. So I'm sure we could have a whole episode just on truck driver stories, and maybe we should do that sometime just for some fun, just to, give people a reality check on what you folks go through on a daily basis. But Roy, in closing, is there anything you want to leave with the folks here tonight?
Yes, I don't recall hearing anything about the Southern cross-border drivers being ordered to take anything.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Just like the people that are wading and taking rafts across the river or hiking through the brush out west of Texas, being coerced or forced into taking anything. And yet this is expected of our good neighbors to the north.
And, Canada are our good neighbors. We may disagree politically on some stuff and things like that, but they're good people up there.
Well, the majority of the people up there, actually, we probably don't disagree with.
Right. We're not dealing with traffickers and drug cartels like we are from the South. But yet that border, they're not being told that they got to mandate the snake bite. I find that very interesting. And that to me is just more proof about the attempt to destabilize the United States. That's just more proof to me.
But the last statement would be, please have consideration and respect for safety. Well, for one, for yourselves, for every individual in their vehicle. But that 80,000 pound rig, when it's fully loaded, or 84,000 if it's got a weight permit like mine, or of course you see all the heavy haulers that are over 100,000 sometimes. That doesn't stop on a dime. It doesn't stop on a dollar. It can't change lanes quickly without causing issues. Especially if it's a liquid tanker with stuff sloshing around in it 3/4 full.
Yeah.
I've been through some issues because of other truck drivers, and that's when it really is frustrating. But when you feel like it, and if there's a chance, show some appreciation, toot the horn, give them a wave. I've had a lady pull up by me at a stop light, roll down the window, so I rolled mine down. She asked, "Hey, would you blow the horn for my toddler?" That made my day. That made my day. I gladly tooted a tune on that big air horn for that little toddler.
That's great.
I got people along the roadside that a fellow, they'll wave at me when I pass. And I was on the shoulder one day, and the fella pulled over to see if I needed help, because he sees me running by. He's already stopped. He flagged my boss down, or talked to him on the CB radio once or something out of his pickup truck. And so he's familiar with my boss, and he says, "Hey, my wife, Dad was a lifeline trucker. Would you mind to blow the horn when you pass by? Sometimes it would really help her out. She's grieving because she recently lost him. So if I remember, I toot the horn if they're outside. I guarantee I'm laying on that air horn."
That's right.
They appreciate stuff like that too. And these videos that you and I have seen, and these people showing support for the trucks, it almost tears me up. It really warms my heart. And it's not but just the support for the truckers. They're standing up for every human being. They're standing up for our human rights. That's right. To make our own decisions, to live free and healthy.
That's right.
And, don't get aggressive. Don't cut right in front of something before you're going to turn off. You're going to get hit, or at least cause somebody to do so, and so forth. And Tailgating, yeah, we can't really see you back there. So if you come around on the side all of a sudden, don't be surprised if we don't know it. That's why a lot of these trucks got signs all over the place showing blind spots and this and that.
Yeah.
I've had people pass me on the right shoulder because I won't cut in front of people. I
Mm.
wait a safe distance in the left lane before moving to the right in front of another truck, especially, but even a car. And after the nose of my truck is already in the right lane, some yahoo up the back end of that tanker, which is round, and yet the car is so small I can't see it because they're trying to hook a tow bar on my bumper or something. They'll come darting off the right to pass me, and I'm already in that lane. I've had majority of them were F-150s and F-250s for some blooming reason. Pass me on the shoulder
Yeah.
when I just left the left lane wide open for them.
Yeah.
You know,
And the
think
fact
about
of
what
the
you're
matter,
doing.
they're
A
putting
few
life
seconds
in
may
their own life.
cost your life instead of getting you somewhere faster.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
It
Well,
goes the
Roy,
same thing with you, Stacy. If y'all are hauling livestock or something and people do
yep,
dumb stuff.
exactly.
If you're
Exactly.
hauling live animals, you can't do things in a hurry. They're going to get injured.
That's
I've
right.
seen people, these protesters out in front of the meat packing plant, try to jump out in front of a big truck and then whine and cry because he almost ran them over.
Yeah.
If he
Yeah.
injures all them cattle because of somebody who doesn't educate themselves, he's liable for them all.
Yep.
And all those cattle suffer, and they
Yeah.
have to be drug out with a winch one by one.
Yep. Broken legs, broken backs, broken hips.
Yeah, that's a whole lot worse than going through a line and being put down for food quickly
That's right.
and
That's,
as mildly as possible.
I
People don't
agree.
think, and they need to.
Yeah. Well, Roy, I appreciate you doing this interview with me tonight. You gave a lot of insight to what's going on. I hope the people appreciate the wisdom that you've shared with them. What is your YouTube channel again?
Cowboy Roy Rogers, and I guess we'll need to drop my link in your description
Yeah.
and comments or something, because
I'll get
if you look me up, you'll probably find the king of cowboys that I was given my handle after 40 years ago. So
Cowboy Roy Rogers is your trucker handle. That's where you got that from.
yes, I've had that for 40 years as a tiny little CBer. And then I started right after high school into the trucking industry as a mechanic and learning to drive with a cab over international with no power steering and so forth. Got licensed in 2000 to be able to do test drives and so forth. About 06, 07, I started my first commercial job. Well, before that, while being a bus mechanic, for some reason, the girls didn't like calling me Mr. Roy, so I got called Cowboy Roy, driving the bus,
Well,
which was fine. I wasn't going to have them butcher and twist up my last name. And then the first day on the job of the company I'm working for, my boss's buddy introduced us on the job site as Cowboy Roy and Cowboy Troy. Anyone who knows who Cowboy Troy is will understand why. Because he no pale face Anglo like me.
Right. So his YouTube channel is Cowboy Roy Rogers. Also, folks, check out freedomrestorationfoundation.org. You can also go to Freedom Restoration on Facebook and MeWe. Roy does a great job moderating those platforms and bringing information out and how you can help for your freedoms. Folks, again, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this. Please like this video. It drives the algorithms. Share this video if you think that it's a value and it can help people out. And Roy, again, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate you and what you do.
You're welcome, and thank you also. And please check my playlists of videos from Stacy and lots of other good channels. If you use the Chinese TikTok platform of gathering data on us. I provide videos there that can't get through YouTube, just like dear Stacy has. So
Yep, yep.
thank you all, and thank you, Stacy.
And thank you, Roy. God bless.